Welcome to my YouTube channel. On this channel, we find facts and fine-tune figures. However, we have created two things in our pipeline, but we have fourth item listed. We have created a lakehouse and we also created a pipeline. But with our lakehouse, there are two other items that are created. One of them is the SQL endpoint, where I had shown us where you can use SQL to interact with your data set and the data set itself. So these two other items are attached to this lakehouse. So if you delete these data sets, this semantic model now, your lakehouse will still be existing, but it will be empty. But if you delete your lakehouse itself, both the underlying semantic model and SQL endpoint will be deleted. So in case you are not comfortable with the SQL endpoint, there are other things that you can do. You can use your third-party application to actually query your data in your lakehouse. So if you click on more options right here, you can see copy SQL connection string. So if you copy this SQL connection string now, you can then use it maybe in your SSMS or your Azure Data Studio for connection. But because I have Azure Data Studio installed on my machine, so I just click on SQL endpoint, and then once I do that, I just come to, so I click on my SQL endpoint, then I see open, or I see open with. So I can do open with Azure Data Studio. So if I do open with Azure Data Studio, because I have Azure Data Studio installed on my laptop, then I click on open, then it will automatically open Azure Data Studio for me. Then I'll be asked if I want to connect to this server, then I click on open. So once I click on open, then you will see this interface. Assuming you want to go through the route of copying the SQL connection string, so where you have your server here, you just paste the SQL connection string that I copied earlier, you paste it right here, and then your authentication type is your universal with MFA support, and of course the name of your account, the tenant that you are using to do your Fabric workload. Then you click on connect. So once you do that, all the data that you have in your lakehouse, you can actually query them within your Azure Data Studio or on your SSMS. So you can see that it is connected now, and then you have your table, your views, you have all of this. So from your from your Azure Data Studio, you can query your data set. So just like you would do typically for any on-prem connection. So I can do select top 1000, and then whatever you do here will also is going to reflect on your lakehouse. So I'm querying the first 1000 row, and then I have a query loaded up for me. So this is it. Then it's going to run and I can see the output of my query. Then also you can write any query that you want. Let's just try and count the number of rows that we have in this data set. So I will just edit this SQL query now to just count what we have in our data set. So I will do a count of the entire data sets, and then I will run my query so that I can know how fast, boom, and then you can see that 15 million rows of data was ingested in less than 10 minutes, So whatever you do here is also going to reflect on your lakehouse in your Fabric environment. So I'm coming back to my workspace, and then I will click on this three dot right here, and then I'll copy my connection string. So once I copy it, then I will use this to connect to this same SQL endpoint, but this time I'll be using SSMS. Now I have my SSMS open. Instead of connecting to this server, I will just clear what I have in here, then I will do Control B to paste the SQL connection string that I had pasted. But I have to change this authentication, so I will use Azure Active Directory Universal MFA as my authentication. Then I will click on connect. So once I click on connect, so it's going to prompt me to sign in with my tenant details, and then it will connect to that server itself. So this is my tenant, so I'll just click on next, then provide the password, and then the signing will be done. So once that signing is complete, I can then go back into my SSMS, and then I will see the tables that I have in my Lakehouse available as though you have a server in your traditional SQL server management system. So you can see that authentication is complete. So I can now come back into my SQL Server Management Studio. So this is my SSMS, and then I can expand on databases, and then I can see my first Lakehouse appearing as though is a database itself. So I can query this database now, then I can expand it. I have my tables, I have my view, and all those things that we have. Then I can click on tables, for example, and then we will see the table that was ingested using the blob storage. Then you can query it. So like I mentioned, you can actually script it as select top 1000 rows. So once you script it, then you have your query interface where you can write your SQL query. For example, now I can decide to create this as a view. So if I edit this query now, for example, I can edit this query now and click on and type create view, and then give it a name. Just call it view tests as this. And then if I run this script, it's going to create a view called view test for me. And then whatever thing I create on this interface right here is going to be populated and updated on my SQL even within my Fabric environment. So let me execute this, and then you see that it is successfully executed. So let's go back to our Fabric environment and see if we have that view on our Lakehouse. But before we go, let's just expand on the view right here, and then we will see if that view is available here and also in Fabric environment. So you see this is our view. Then you can go back to our Fabric environment now to check if the view is also in our Fabric environment. So we are back in our SQL endpoint within our Fabric environment. So this is the view. We can expand on the view, and here we can see the view that we created. So you can actually query this view directly also as against querying your table. So you have this script generated for you, and then you can expand on this, and then you see the outcome of the view that we created. So you can just scroll down just to be sure that you are querying the view that you created. You can see that okay, this view is on the lakehouse that we created.